Trojan fans, welcome to another edition of the Peristyle Podcast. I am your host. Some of them call me the boss man, just around these parts. Ryan Abraham, publisher of USCFootball.com. We have Milk Cilantro over here. RJ
Is
Abeytia.
that really where we're going on
I don't
this?
know. We're just coming up with something.
Milk
He's half
cilantro? That
he's half a
sounds so
cilantro
disgusting.
boy.
Like,
We do have the Cilantro Boys show coming up later today or tomorrow morning, so check that out with Gerard and Chris. And of course, in the director's chair, we got Automatic, India Otto, just crushing life over there. We've heard a lot about her life and off the air, and man, it's pretty impressive. But India, welcome in. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited.
Excited?
I am excited.
I'm very excited.
Talk some spring ball camp.
We do spring ball camp. I like that. Practice 12 and 13 the last 2 days. That means only 2 left. So we got penultimate on Friday and then the finale on Saturday, which we don't get to go to, boo, unless there's going to be some last minute things about that. But yeah, we'll be able to go out Friday. But we were there the last couple of days. So we're going to talk about what we heard, what we saw, some unique special teams drills that we're seeing for the first time. A lot of freshmen praise today. I think the defensive players that spoke today, a little more informative than the offensive players that spoke yesterday. So we'll get into all that. If you have questions or comments, podcast@uscfootball.com. That is our email address. Send us an email. Let us know which show you want a question for or a topic, because we got the whole long off season coming up. Let us know what you want to talk about. We love to do it. 424-254-9141 is a phone number. Yes, you can dial it in on your phone. You're allowed to call with those things. I don't know. India, you use it for calls or just it's only texting? What do you do? Like Instagram?
Both. I do both.
Okay, so you do it. Are you a voicemail person or no?
Not really.
Yeah.
And my voicemail, I need to change. It's so old. I think it's me when I was like 13, so I sound way different, and so I got to change that.
I think
we
for
need
the
that audio.
for the younger people, like when we had like answering machines. So when you would like come home and like there would be a tape and you'd like, oh, did anybody leave me a message? Like, so there's like leaving a message. There's like some sort of, I don't know. It brings back like this nostalgia. Like, oh, that was a positive thing. Like getting mail, an actual like letter, and that if you're in college or whatever. So I think the younger people don't really care about voicemails as much, but we have like an affinity for it because it was like coming back to your dorm and be like playing your voicemail.
It's been phased out.
For
socially.
sure. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, and I'm susceptible. I barely even listen to my voice. I'm like,
Yeah, same.
if you don't get me, you don't get me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna I'm not doing research. Like, unless it's like
People call it like, oh,
Mom,
RJ
okay,
called.
Mom. Like, okay, I better
Yeah.
check that.
Yeah.
But you're
Ryan.
You just see the missed call and you have to like call them back. But like you can leave audio notes too. Like I
You
do
can.
That. Like,
One
that's-
time I left on FaceTime, they have a new update where if somebody doesn't answer a FaceTime, you can like record it and it'll show like whatever you're looking at, and you can like leave them a message, but it's like of your face and stuff like that. So sometimes I do that to people
nice.
kind of as a joke. But yeah, if I'm calling somebody and they don't answer, I'm not leaving a voicemail. I'm ending it, and I'll text them like if it's important to call me or something like that.
All right. Somehow I got this show off the rails already. But also the Apple Podcasting app or Spotify, you want to leave us a 5-star rating. We thank you very much. And the reviews are awesome on Apple. We got a couple of new ones. One from La Palma, Ryan Man of Vision. I didn't make this up. This isn't a burner.
Ryan's burner. He's quoting from his
Burner
burner
account.
again.
Yes, most informative podcast. Put it 2 words. That's okay. Very entertaining. Thank you for that one.
Claps for that.
And Late Forte, I believe it is. 5-star review. The best source of Trojan football news. Ryan and the team provides the most up-to-date and thorough analysis of the latest developments, including behind-the-scenes insights that you don't get anywhere else. So those are 2 really nice reviews. Thank you so much for doing that. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate the reviews. It does help to grow the show when you guys leave us 5-star reviews and things like that. And do want to thank our sponsor over at Trader Joe's. We were talking a little Trader Joe's today. McKenna, you got to see her maybe for the first time if you watched Tunnel Vision, and she was not even aware that Trader Joe's was one of our sponsors.
Yeah.
She's like just out of the blue. She's like, that's my favorite store. I shop there all the time. Like, well, we get some gift cards every once in a while from our buddy John over there, so McKenna can be included in the next round of that. But I know it's March Madness time, guys, and we told you about this last week. The Trader Joe's beverage bracket 2026 is done. We got a champion in the finals, and this was held on Wednesday. You got Sparkling Black Peach, with peach juice beverage and the orange peach mango juice. Do you want to guess who ended up winning that one?
I think I got to go mango.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to go with.
You
too.
guys are, Trader Joe's orange peach mango, 100% juice. They said in the end, while the black tea with peach certainly sparkled on the court, it was the orange peach mango's triple threat of sweet, citric, and tropicality that took the trophy home. So
There you go.
I know everyone was waiting to see who was going to win the beverage bracket. But all serious, we love that's a real thing, by the way. I was reading on the website. TraderJoe's.com. You can check all that. They have fun content up there. And they have fun podcasts too. But yeah, thanks Trader Joe's for being a great sponsor over the years. It's still kind of funny to have our little podcast be sponsored by like a really
awesome.
cool company like that. So, whatever. They saw something in us, so we appreciate that. And we definitely see something
Every time we go there.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
which is a lot. We just had lunch right next to Trader Joe's in the Hermosa Beach, so that was good. All right, so we're live on YouTube, live on Facebook. If you have questions or comments, put them in the chat. India is on it. She's just
Yep.
like, boom, just on top of it. Say something funny, it's going up on the screen. She will not miss it. That's a challenge for India now. And if any questions, she can star them, and we'll get back to them later. We got to talk about some spring ball stuff, and then Bill Connolly over at ESPN, his preseason SP Plus rankings came out, I think, last week. And so we want to talk about where USC is and why there could be some levels of optimism there going on. But I just talked a whole bunch. How are you guys doing? You guys doing all right?
We're
Great.
doing great.
Yeah.
I knew we were good because the lunch we had today did not get in the way of your hello
Yes.
Trojans.
Yes.
You got the last time I was here, I think that
I
I
balked.
don't want to disparage it with mentioning what the meal was because I don't want to slander the place that you eat at.
Oh, okay.
But the meal you had before clearly got in the way of your trademark opening.
Yeah.
Today you had no such problems.
That's
Rachel
true.
Suba did not control your nutrition, so we didn't have to consult an expert of that level. But like, I feel like we're off on the right foot now because you got the full.
I did.
I don't know. That's transcripted. What are we thinking? 8 zeros? 8 O's?
Yeah, probably.
Like 8 O's.
We could
check
We're talking
that.
to
We could check
Automatic, so she would know. Like,
She knows.
Exactly.
yeah, that's an 8-0 greeting you put on.
I think what
Yeah.
screws me up if you do like I have the Skittles in there. Skittles kind of
Skittles do it for you.
Skittles.
But then also like a soda. Like if I do a soda,
Oh yeah,
like I
the
just
bubble-
had water.
Yeah, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, I just had the water. Yeah, we had some Peruvian for lunch, which was pretty good. I like
Peruvian food.
Peruvian food, yes. Not we didn't. Not a person.
We had some Peruvian lunch.
Yeah.
Wow, Ryan.
I guess that could be an April Fool's joke. It is
Yeah,
April Fool's
there
Day,
you go.
by the way.
There you go.
And we already have some comments in the chat about.
Yeah, I was just about to
you
ask
pulled
about
off
that.
a joke in instant analysis.
We did. I thought we did. I swear to God, 10 seconds in, I thought I was done. I kept it together,
Nice.
and
Wait, what's the joke? Or should we leave it to the...
well,
is it
I'm
going to
sure
ruin
some.
it?
Yeah, see if it's referenced. Let's see if it comes up organically.
Okay.
I don't want to.
I haven't seen it yet. Was it good? Was it like...
Well, so we broke news
Okay.
on instant analysis to start, and
Got
the
it.
news we broke was Lincoln Riley, in an effort to generate a little bit more emotion at the start of games and to, show a little bit more SC ties and bonds, has decided to ride Traveler out of the tunnel for USC home games.
That's good.
He's going to come out. He's going to gallop on out there. We don't think he's going to stay on the horse for the games, but the entrance, when he leads the team out, he's going to be galloping out there with Traveler. They've wanted to get Traveler more involved for a long time. I think just kind of when you have a talent like that, why are you
Right.
only wasting it on the pregame?
Right.
So this is kind of their way of making that happen. So that's the news we broke on Instant.
That is funny.
I'll let anyone decide the relevance connected to today's date or anything else circumstantial to the reporting of that story.
Yeah. Are you a big April Fool's person?
I'm
India?
not, but I did get pranked today, and they got me good. So
Oh,
there
what
was
was it?
that.
Well, you can't
I
leave
was
us
on
hanging.
I was on Instagram, and I was on close friends of like one of my friends, and she had put like. I thought that she was like pregnant, but it was so edited. It was edited so well. It had like her name on the actual like image of it, and was like, oh my God, like I'm so excited. And it looked so real. And so I immediately DM'd and I was like, wait a second, are you pregnant? And they were like, April Fools. And I was like,
gotcha.
oh, wow. But it was really,
That's commitment.
it was commitment. I was like, holy shit.
Commitment to the bit. I'm sure AI
Yeah.
Faking a pregnancy
Yeah.
to get automatic. I
Yeah.
guess you got to dig deep to.
But as I said, it looked so real. As I said, it had the name. Like I checked it. It totally
It all
got
checked
me.
out?
Yeah, it all checked out. But
I'm not big
April
in it. We
Fools.
did a few years back, like when Keeley was part of the show, we did one with our friends over at the Reign of Troy. So they have, it was co-host me and Keeley, and then it was Michael and Alicia over there. So with the boy girl thing, we sort of like played each other's roles. So I would, we
Okay.
used so it was kind of fun. So
Got
they
it.
did like Hello Trojan Fans to open their show and everything, and we used some of their mannerisms and stuff. So
Nice.
it was kind of fun just
That's
to like.
funny.
Just sort of play the other side, just to make it like it wasn't like we're not tricking anybody. It was just sort
Right,
of
right.
like an homage to someone else. But
that's cool.
I
I'm
was
not a big. Yeah.
both accepted by Stanford and rejected by Notre Dame on April 1st.
oh wow, okay,
And in both cases, I thought it was April Fool's. I honestly thought I thought there would be
Oh,
no way I
wow.
couldn't get into Notre Dame, and I thought there was no way I was getting into Stanford, and
Wow.
it flipped. And it was on April 1st. It was like, it's the biggest April Fool's. Yeah, there will never be another April Fool's that like hits like that one.
Oh,
That
that's
was
crazy.
Yeah, and I will say, because USC fans, they don't need the Stanford talk, but you will like this. I had become, because like I wanted to be happy about the school I got into, my senior year of high school, I became a huge Notre Dame football fan. Huge, like obsessed, right? All the gear, all the games, everything, right? God bless Lou Holtz, like patron saint, right? So they rejected me and proceeded to go on their longest bowl losing streak. They went the longest years, the most amount of time, I'll look it up later, but they went the most amount of time in the history of their program without winning a bowl game.
Well, they should have.
So they were
accepted it.
appropriately cursed.
I love it.
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
I mean, how many years at Catholic school and nothing from Notre Dame just didn't have time for me. So
Yeah,
Dang.
there you go. So yeah, so as I do this, don't think there's not a little interest in like,
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me when Notre Dame has problems. Just
All
put it
right.
like that. All right.
I guess we could talk some football now.
Yeah.
No, this is more fun. Like it is the off season. Now
Yeah.
we were at spring practice today, so there was like some actual kind of football going on. The last 2 days, so since we last spoke with you here on the podcast, we did a show Sunday night. We're gonna do another one this Sunday night, Tunnel Vision. We'll be back on Sunday night if you want to do a live show, live calls and all that. So we had McKenna and Shotgun on this past week, but this will be the regular crew with RJ, India, and myself on this Sunday evening, talking, basically wrapping up all of spring football. But yeah, the last 2 days, full pads. We talked to some offensive players yesterday. Today was Lincoln Riley and some defensive players. I don't know, maybe we could talk about some of the observations first, a little bit of
Yeah.
what was out there. Nothing like too different. We got to see the last 2 days. The quarterbacks early on were working with the running backs, so there was a lot of like the mesh stuff going on where they're practicing, and sometimes they would like run a play and they would have like each quarterback with a different running back kind of going through, and sometimes they would be like it was like a fire drill thing, like they'd run a play and they'd make them go back and do it again, and usually like, if the quarterback kept it, then the next time there would be a handoff to the running back. But there was a lot of that sort of work. But the really interesting stuff I thought was like the special teams work. We've talked about before where they're like these really sort of like you take these, individual plays that need to be made on any sort of, given special teams play, if it's punt coverage, if it's kickoff, whatever it is. And this was specifically about downing a ball off a punt, inside the 5, as close to the goal line as possible. And Lincoln Riley was even out there today sort of getting his hands dirty in the corner group that we were watching. And, you'd have the punter punt the ball, and they did it. I thought they did a nice job. There was a lot of punts that were just going to the goal line. They were sometimes high ones, sometimes they were like line drives, and then you'd have two coverage guys that were getting down there. They had to communicate between the two who's going to make the play and help the other one out. And sometimes it's catching over your shoulder, sometimes it's batting a ball down, and we saw, I think, for the last 2 days, and I thought that was a really good kind of drill. So just another example of Mike Eckler and like sort of breaking up the pieces that go to every bit of special teams, and it's one of the periods we get to watch. So I thought that was kind of an interesting drill.
Yeah, and I think it aligns with what the players and the coaches have been talking about spring as a whole, which is the focus is on fundamentals and individual development and building guys up one play at a time versus a whole bunch of team where you're looking at 11 and 11 and 11 kind of a thing. And I think Ryan Sayre talked about it. It's been more that focus than it has been team focus, which is the same we've heard about the offense and the defense. But I think the side effects on the special team work are worth discussing. I think one of the things we mentioned was, or one of the things Nick and Riley talked about was how it's become a priority and now it's become something that the players are embracing. And we talked a little about this on Instant, but like when you're on a team and everybody wants on special teams, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of teams at a lot of levels, including the highest ones, where it's eating your vegetables. It's a chore. It's not anything anybody wants, right? But Corey Sims has said it. Elijah Newby has said it. And Lincoln Riley's talked about it. And of course, Mike Eckler is like living it out there. We're watching it. It's a priority. It's a meaningful thing for this team now. And guys want to play special teams. They want to do it. So you're building kind of a focus to details that this team has lacked in recent years, right? That all the plays count. All the plays make a difference, right? And then the other thing that's been interesting is it's brought coaches together. So we're watching Dennis Simmons and Trovon Reed work together in a drill. So it's them working with guys that they don't normally work with, but it's also the players getting a different combination of guys that they normally wouldn't be working with, right? Like, it was those two we've seen like Anthony Jones and Sean Nua working a drill together. So I think when you mix that up, but it creates like a cohesion that USC's operating and thinking as a big group, even though the focus is on very individual steps and tasks.
Yeah, and I think just to your point, it does create a level of competition if you want to be that gunner. There was a lot of guys out there there's only a couple of positions, and you probably had 20-something guys that were doing that drill. Well, if you want to be the gunner and you're covering punts like that, like you got to be better than all those other guys, And so it's sort of like they're letting everyone do it, and like, okay, who's going to be best? And it creates this sort of like, it's like a scarcity. Like, hey, I want to be that guy, and well, you better, do this drill well. And it's just, I think there's an aspect of that. If you make it something that's desirable, more people want to do it. It's just like, they start the line at the club. You're like, oh, there's people in line. I want to go in there or whatever. And they got the velvet ropes going. Yeah. India's nodding her head. She knows she's a big
As if India's ever waited in line for the club.
That's true. She doesn't have to wait.
Please.
That's
VIP, please.
She gets rolled in there. But
no, but I think when you're talking about the scarcity thing and the perception, it does matter. And it does work like what you're saying. When the culture of your team is special teams is for leftovers.
Yeah.
You get leftover special teams. Like it looks like that. When your better guys are taking an active interest in it and want to be doing it, it reinforces the idea that every play counts, every snap counts, which I think is one of the bigger things USC is trying to instill this spring.
Yeah, we put some India actually put some highlights up. I still have some from my phone from yesterday. I'll put up. We're on our YouTube channel at Inside Troy where we're doing this live. Check out our shorts. So if you like the vertical video stuff, we've started to do a bunch more of that. So they've been doing really well. But quicker highlights, and Ahmad's doing a great job with his sights and sounds from every practice. So make sure you check those out as well on our YouTube channel over YouTube Inside Troy. Check it out. Any other observations the last couple of days? And if you saw anything India too, you can chime in. But I don't know.
I thought today was a little bit lower energy than yesterday, which it's not a great thing. I don't want to celebrate that.
Yeah.
Like we saw more misses from the quarterbacks today than I think we've seen regularly. And the energy just it wasn't quite as up as it's been in previous days. And it is practice 13. It's the second padded practice in a row. Yeah. They've done that before in the spring, but they haven't done it every time. There hasn't been like every day it's been pat, right?
Yeah, back to back. Yeah.
So, you're pulling them in there following a day that Lincoln Riley described as pretty rigorous. He said Tuesday was pretty tough. They brought it, right? So you see guys kind of fighting through that and struggling through that. And again, the big asterisk as always is we didn't get to see how they handled the last hour when it really ramped up. But I think even with the look of the team and the energy a little bit lower today, there was plenty of good things to talk about based on what they had to say after the practice.
Yeah, which we can get into now. Like we said, offensive players spoke yesterday, but we can start like with what Lincoln Riley said. It wasn't one of those where he came out and gave a, he didn't give an opening statement or anything. It was just sort of like, shoot. And, we've asked him a lot of questions so far, so you're kind of coming up with some different stuff. But he mentioned a couple of the true freshmen that were standing out. I don't know. What were your biggest takeaways from what Riley had to say?
Obviously, he liked my question, so I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, that's true.
I got a good question from Lincoln Riley. He doesn't throw those out too often. But the question was the question I asked was, what has been the most consistent sign of your team's mental toughness? Like, what's the thing that's been showing up that gives you faith that you've got a tougher team? Because they've got to get mentally tougher. That's been a theme the last couple of years, right? And he said it was the consistency of the competitiveness, which aligns very nicely with what we were just talking about on special teams. It's this idea that guys realize on two levels you cannot take a snap off. That the competition is that intense at this point where Lincoln Riley said it. He's like, look, if you take a snap off inside your position group, someone's going to pass you. If you take a snap off against the guy on the other side of the ball, you're going to get embarrassed. And it's a thing where that's every group, every rep. It's not like I'm up against a lesser guy now, so I don't need to do that. There's been a clear understanding on the players, I think, that on the good side, there's a lot of opportunity available. There's a lot of stuff not set in stone about this team.
Yeah.
Certainly on the two deep. And then on the other side of it is this all counts. This isn't casual. This is all being kept score. We're keeping track of everything. We're watching all the film, and you are gaining or losing ground on every snap, which is kind of the climate you want for a team that's going to eventually be mentally tough.
Yeah, that was a good question there. He also mentioned true freshman wide receiver Luke Weaver.
Tron.
No, I'm sorry, Tron Baker. It wasn't
Yes.
Luke. It's Tron Baker. I don't know why I get that mixed up sometimes. And then also Madden Riordan, the safety, talking about sort of he just brings it all the time, and he's always in the reps and consistently doing the right thing, always making the right plays. And then with Tron, it was a comparison to Taj Washington, which I thought was really interesting. That maybe he's not maybe as explosive as Taj, but maybe a little longer than him. But just the similarities where he just the guy that would come in and never misses a rep. He's always doing the right thing, and then all of a sudden you realize like, wow, he's one of the best players on the team. So I think that's a really good comparison too, because you don't necessarily want your true freshman to come in and just take over on day one, but to see that he has that path to becoming someone that can be just like, he's just going to do his thing. He's always doing, making the right choices, always competing, getting in there. And then all of a sudden you realize like, yeah, we can't not have this guy out in the field. He's going to do great things for us. So I thought there was some other interesting freshman talk too, but from Riley, those were the two guys he talked about today.
Yeah. And I think like when you talk about, there's two victories there that were impressive. First of all, anytime Taj Washington's name gets mentioned in comparison, that's a good thing. He's certainly he was one of our kind of favorite guys that we liked, but for the reasons that Lincoln Riley said, he earned everything he got. He was a transfer. First of all, he wasn't, if I'm mistaken, he was a Clay Helton transfer.
I think he was, yeah.
I'm pretty sure. So he didn't come in with any kind of cachet when Lincoln Riley arrived, right? There was no predisposition.
If anything, it was like a negative stigma.
Yeah, like, okay, you're one of his guys, right? So it was a situation where he got everything he deserved. By the time it was done, we were routinely calling him Mr. Reliable in pretty much everything I wrote, but like he was that kind of a player. So to see those kind of characteristics in a freshman who Tron Baker, certainly not a big secret on the recruiting trail, but also not one of the top headlining names that we talked about before spring camp started, right? He's not one of the big guys, right? So for a guy like that to show up with the attitude and to be getting the results he's getting and to be impressing the head coach, and also we've talked to guys off on the record, kind of behind the scenes, that name keeps coming up. So it's not an accident. And then Madden Reardon, which I think I screwed this up on instant, but Madden Reardon from Sierra Canyon, one of the power programs, and I think, I got to see if I'm right about this or wrong, but I don't know. I thought he was at St. John Bosco. But anyway, the point was he's an example of a local guy who showed up at USC and is kind of an example of the success of this recruiting class being built on the local talent, which was intentional and something that they want, something that needed to happen for the last few years. So it's great to see, it's great to hear both a hardworking freshman story and then also a local freshman story.
Yeah.
Two signs that it's getting to where USC wants it to go.
His dad was in our chat helping out with one of the questions we had on Sunday, so it was kind of funny. His
dad's great. Yeah, they're terrific.
He was in there, and so from the other players that we heard from, anything kind of stand out to you? I know you guys discussed some of this in instant analysis, but yeah, any other thoughts?
Well, I think if we go back to Tuesday, I thought, again, it wasn't like a gusher of information that we got from people, but we did talk to Aaron Dunn, young offensive lineman. We found out he's getting work at both tackles, so some cross-training work that's happening. But what we really kind of got into with him was this concept of coaching hard, because it's been a topic in college sports, in every level of sports, really. I'm sure India knows from basketball, it's like a constant discussion about what it means, what's acceptable, what you're allowed to say to kids, and so on and so forth, right? And so we asked him point blank, do you like being coached hard? How hard are you getting coached? And it was affirmative on both ends. Number one, USC is getting coached hard. There's a lot of positivity, a lot of praise, a lot of energy that we've talked about, but there is a real accountability, and there is a real sense of there are stakes here, and we're taking this seriously, right? Which you want to hear. And then the other part was for Aaron Dunn, from a player's point of view, kind of putting it to rest. Like, they don't have to be coddled. In fact, they don't want to be coddled.
Yeah.
And Aaron Dunn said it perfectly. He said, anyone that takes the time to coach me hard sees something in me that makes it worth that.
Yeah.
Right?
If they don't see something, they're not going to bother yelling.
No.
I'm going to yell. If I yell at this guy, it's not going to help. So why would I bother? Yeah.
It's like how you never yell at me. Like, no matter what I do, like,
I know it's not going to help.
Yeah. What's it going to do? But no, but I think that was, look, we're getting a lot of cliche, as you do in the job that we do. But I thought there was something meaningful in the way Aaron Dunn answered that question. I also thought over the last 2 days, some of the offensive line names that we've heard mentioned from players, when it's unsolicited, players getting named.
You do love that. And it makes sense.
It's, well,
if you
want
ask
to
about
believe
a
it
player,
a little more. If you say, how's Ryan as a publisher? Oh, he's the most amazing.
Yeah.
But if you say, now who's standing out in the publishing game, right? So to ask Zariah Fisher, who's a veteran defensive end, been around a long time, who on the offensive line is giving you problems?
Who asked that? Oh, that was me.
There you go. Well, I mean, as usual, the cream rises. The cream rises to the top, right? Of course you're going to get the best questions. We're the best site. But for a veteran like that to go straight to Elijah Vicona, who's a second-year player, who's clearly taken steps this spring and this offseason into a guy that now, who knows, he could very well be pushing for starting time. He could very well be pushing for 2 deep jobs. For a guy like that, who everyone kind of assumed was a project when he arrived, which generally means like maybe by year 3 or 4 we'll see something out of you, I thought that was super positive. And then he named Vlad Diakonov, who was one of our favorite film study guys from this year's freshman group, as just a super high energy, violent, angry guy, which you kind of need to be to play that position. So both those guys got spotlighted by a veteran defensive guy, which, as we've said, you want to believe it a little more when it's coming unsolicited and from the other side of the ball.
Yeah, it was funny about Vlad. He was saying, like, for that first week, he couldn't figure him out or something. So he was definitely having some trouble. But he was really fun, and to have that Penn State connection. He knew Tamir Robinson, but really that was about it. But that was the first time we really got to hear from him, and it was that was a fun sort of conversation. I think he did a really nice job, and I don't think his name comes up a lot, but then you're like, oh, he could really have a pretty big impact on that. Just having some veteran presence, and he's really good friends with who's he rooming with?
Alex Van Sumerman?
Yeah, Van Sumerman, the Michigan State transfer. So he said like the two of them are just like, they're like doing their classes together, doing all those things together. So I think that's going to help you. You got some really talented young defensive linemen. He had glowing things to say about Luke, Wafel and stuff. But to have the two veteran sort of defensive linemen come in together, and then also like be bonded almost instantly. Two Big Ten guys coming in or whatever. Yeah. I thought that was kind of a cool to hear from him talking about that.
Well, I think the number one thing that came across talking to both him and Van Sumerman the one time is they're really happy to be here.
Yeah, Van Sumerman was fun to talk to too. He was really fun.
They both seem to really appreciate being at USC at this moment, and they're veteran guys. They didn't have to come here. And I thought the other flip is I think those guys could play important roles, but it's been so strange for us in previous springs. All we're talking about are the transfers. And now all we're talking about are the homegrown youngsters. And we're kind of having to remind ourselves that they did bring in some transfer guys who could probably play some roles. So I think that's a flip that USC wanted. But I do think as a good counterpoint, there are some veteran guys that they brought in who probably are going to really matter. And I think Van Sumerman and Zariah Fisher are two guys pretty much at the top of that list, certainly on defense.
Yeah, I got to do a better job, India, of making sure you get some updated photos there, because I should, especially because we had a whole bunch of guys we knew we were going to talk about today. But I took a lot of photos. I think I have at least one of like everybody. Like I think so, just pretty close. And so I'll try to get some more photos in the database there for us to use. So when we're talking about them, but it did us a great job like throwing those photos up when we're. But there was a couple of like the transfer photos for like Van Sumerman, like when he's Michigan State gear. But we have photos of him wearing USC gear now too. But
103 guys on the team. You think you got 103 different?
Pretty close. I even went after like the special teams guys the other day. So
nice. There you
go.
And Shotgun took a bunch of photos the last couple of practices too.
We probably have all 103, at least one.
Yeah.
I was scouring for Tron Baker. I was like,
no, I know. I have photos of him and stuff. But
yeah.
Anything stand out from you, India? You didn't get to chime in on any of this from either observations or what players had to say?
You guys nailed it.
Okay.
I think you guys nailed it. I don't really have anything to chime in, but it was good to be. I wasn't there yesterday, but it was good to be back out there today and see those special team drills were fun to watch, and it was a good day of practice.
We all got hats again. Did that happen last week? Or
yeah,
something?
it did.
I think because we have to go to early practice.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
like
that's a hat situation.
I'm not getting up early and like doing.
Yeah.
I just put the hat on.
Exactly.
That's a hat. Yeah. That's entirely dictated by the morning practice.
Yeah, it's a morning
100%.
practice.
100%.
Like Easter Sunday, I'm not gonna
no.
I'm not gonna have a hat on.
Sunday's Easter.
For the
Wow.
show.
No, I think yes. Will be. It is Easter, huh? Yeah, happy Easter, everybody, or pre-Easter.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get some little Easter baskets for us.
Oh my God. Should we have an Easter?
You guys like treats?
Yes.
Yes.
A little bit of chocolate.
We could do a hunt. We could put on the overhead camera, and I could show you guys like looking for eggs.
Yeah. That actually
Just
would be
the
cool.
content that they wanted. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Cool. All right. Anything else from spring ball, or should we talk some SP plus, and then we can get into questions or everything?
I think we can do SP plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good.
Let's do it.
It's still going to be connected to spring ball. So
It sure is.
Yes. So Bill Connolly tweeted out that the preseason SP plus rankings are coming out. So it's like a analytical look at how he ranks teams. It's more of like a power ranking, I think, than a projection of whatever. But it's it's a feel for like, and he incorporates a lot from what you did last year, and it's changed because returning production has changed a lot, because now you could have zero returning production, but it could be way better because you've brought in all these transfers and things like if you're going to look at LSU, like how do you rank them? Well, they got like 68 new guys or whatever it is. So a lot of that's changed, and it's not perfect, but he puts a lot into this. I know you know more about the nuts and bolts if you want to.
Well, no, I think so. First of all, let's just get right to where he's got USC.
Yes,
he's got him as the number 13 overall team, and
right.
the thing to understand, and readers of our stuff on the site know. We use a lot of the OFEI, DFEI stuff, and the crucial distinction is the stuff we use in those categories is drive-based efficiency. This is per play efficiency. So they're just different tools for measuring efficiency. Really, that's all it is. Don't get too overwhelmed by the concepts or the initials or any of that nonsense. But basically, they've got USC as the number 13 team overall as the launch, which not so bad. The goal is to be a top 12 team.
Yeah,
in the
probably
playoff
11.
rankings.
Probably 11 because you're gonna have a group of 5.
There'll be some goober team that gets
the
goober choice. We'll just call it.
Yeah,
but they're well within range of the teams that they're supposed to be beating at some point this year.
Yeah,
right. If you want, just for example, look, the top 2 teams are on USC's schedule, and if they hadn't dropped Notre Dame, the top 3 teams would be. On USC
and
schedule.
I should have put a graphic together, and I did not. Another fail on my part. But just so you know, the rankings, we'll just go through the top 15 just real quick. So Ohio State 1, Oregon 2, Notre Dame 3, Georgia 4, Indiana 5, Texas 6, Texas Tech 7th, Miami 8th, Texas A&M 9, LSU 10, Alabama at number 11, Oklahoma is 12, mentioned USC's 13, Michigan just behind at 14, and then Tennessee at 15. USC opponents, number 17, Penn State. Pretty big move up there for a team that was 7-6 or whatever they were last year. Washington comes in at number 21. They're also on the USC schedule. And I don't see anyone else. I think that's probably about it. UCLA is at number 46.
It's crazy to think that if Notre Dame had stayed on the schedule, 4 of his top 5 best teams
would be
played on the USC schedule. As it is, it's still 3 out of 5.
Yeah, Ohio State 1, Oregon 2, and then Indiana's 5, but Notre Dame's 3. So if a normal year, you would have been playing 4 of the top 5 teams, but still playing 3 of the top 5 teams, according to SP Plus. But one of the things that when I saw this. And I know RJ's way better at the analytic stuff than I am. And I looked at it's broken down by offense, defense, and special teams. Mm-hmm. And for USC, kind of expected the number 6 offense. So number 13 overall, but the number 6 offense, the number 29 defense, but then the number 100 special teams. And I think the defense is probably fair. Maybe it's even, a little optimistic. But I think from what I've seen so far, you could get there. What I felt like that was underselling was on the special teams aspect of it, and noting that Mike Eckler took, and I remember, from RJ's story, and he can give you the full numbers, but he took over a really bad special teams unit in Nebraska and turned them into an elite unit. And if USC could do that, they wouldn't be the number 13 team. They would be top 10 for sure. So if you want to share the numbers with that from before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just really quickly, just to give understanding of why we're pausing this and thinking there could be reason for optimism, the 4 things that Connolly lists as his criteria. And again, these are the launch points, right? So once the season starts and the real data from the current, this is all going to get way more relevant and way more indicative. Like, it's a really good tool, but like everything, this is a projection.
Yeah,
right?
and it matters who your opponents are too. So if you beat, Samford 70-0, like, it doesn't count as much as if you beat like Ole Miss 35-31 or something.
Yeah, and so he's using returning production, right? So filter that through the lens of USC. Makai, the big returner's gone from USC. Makai.
Yeah. As far as special teams goes,
right?
Yeah.
So he's factoring that in, right? He's got no idea that we're watching 10 dudes out there who we think all might be able to be helpful on some level, right? There's no way he knows who Deshaun Rideau is at this point, right? And so the other thing is recent history. And here's kind of where it helps with the special teams, because Nebraska, the year before Mike Eckler arrived, 2 years ago, so that would have been 2024, right? They were number 86 in special teams. Last year, they were number 3. That's Mike Eckler.
Yeah.
That's not, oh my God, we recruited
what
the best.
changed.
It's, yeah, we didn't recruit the best kickers in the country, found the best 3 return guys, and just got nothing but studs suddenly. No, that's Mike Eckler coming in and making a difference. And that the talent on that Nebraska roster, the building blocks, right, favors very well towards USC. It's not like Mike Eckler showed up here and was like, boy, I got no one here who can run.
No material.
I got no one here who can hit. Like, no, that's not the case. Then the other category is recent recruiting. Well, this 2026 class is a complete outlier. Not complete, but a pretty big outlier as the number one recruiting class versus the last 5 or 6 years of recruiting for USC, right? So, and then the other thing is...
a lot of those like 4-star guys that aren't going to crack the 2 deep can play on special teams. So
yes,
like
100%.
Yeah, like, so that deep number 1 recruiting class, if you're not Tron Baker and like people projecting you to be one of the top 3 or 4 guys, you can probably contribute on special teams.
Yeah, and then the last criteria is coaching change effects. Well, first of all, Mike Eckler is now at USC. He's also coaching the linebackers. And Gary Patterson hasn't coached in the last, 3 years now? I think it was 3. It was 2021 was his last year at TCU, and then it was the consulting gig, and then last year was the TV gig. So, like, through the USC lens, there's just a lot of noise. And even with the noise, they're still number 13 as a launch point. I think that's a pretty good launch point, and I think there is room for upward movement for the reasons we just talked about.
Yeah, especially on the special teams aspect of it. And, these are all like preseason numbers, but I think Connolly does a really nice job. And, again, it's going to come down to, and I'm sure people in the chat going crazy, like, we're not like out there looking for reasons to make you feel like, yes, this is a playoff team and blah, blah, blah. I've always felt, and I felt this way, that this is playoffs or bust. And I know, it's year 5 of Lincoln Riley. They haven't made a playoff yet. There's a lot going on here. And you could say, well, maybe 2027 is the year. But I just feel like with everything that's happened, I know the schedule's tough, but you have to go out and beat, a couple of these teams that you should, that maybe you're not going to be favored against. Maybe Oregon and Ohio State are more talented. And how often has USC beaten teams that were more talented than them? Indiana, very, very well coached. I mean, they've done things that no one's ever done before. Like, can you scheme a guy like Kirk Cignetti on the road? I don't know, but like, there's got to be a combination of being able to do that once or twice and not losing every single one of those opportunities. Like there's some big challenges there. Even playing a Penn State on the road with a new coach and all that. I mean, Connolly's got them pretty high up there. They were bringing a lot of transfers, and we'll see how that plays out. But you can't lose all those games. You have to. Everything that you're seeing them do now, that we're giving you guys reasons for optimism. We're not saying it because you hope that's happening. It's just really what we're seeing out there. Like, okay, I see why you made those choices. I see why you're doing this. And it gives you reason for, okay, you have a real chance to make some moves. Until you see what happens on Saturdays, you can't really tell. But I think there's real reasons to be optimistic of some of the changes that have been made in the offseason, and how their recruiting has changed a lot. And it wasn't just coming out of the gates and having a number 1 ranked class. It was finishing that class and even adding to it towards the end, and then sort of building on it, and like how they're recruiting for 2027. So I think all those little things are like, all right, here's reasons to be optimistic. And if you're going to be the pessimistic fan, I get it. Show me, right? Don't talk about it. Show me what's going on. I think they've been showing us some stuff this spring that have been impressive. But there's a lot of work to do. There's a long way to go. But if you're one of those people that feel like, hey, this could be a top 10 team this year, there's years you would have said that to me, and I'm like, I don't see the path. And there could have been one, but it wasn't one that I see. I readily see the path now, but it's definitely going to come down to, beating an Oregon at home that's probably going to be more talented than you, beating an Ohio State at home that's probably more talented. One of those, or going on the road, and maybe Indiana takes a step back. I don't know. It's hard to say what's going to happen. It's hard to be elite every year. But USC's just spent too many years of every time it came to a game that could they outperform and get a win, they just weren't doing it. So this is going to be the year, RJ. I think you got to do that. Like, you have to beat all the teams you should, and then maybe a team that you shouldn't, that has a little more talent than you or have been doing it a little bit longer, get a win over one of those. We've seen it happen a whole bunch of times before. USC just has to be on the right end of that for once.
Well, you described it, and it's also the new reality. What you just described was the path to the playoff. Aside from your Indiana outlier who runs the table, you're going to lose some games, and you don't have to win them all to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
What you need is to win the games you're supposed to win and to steal a couple of the tougher ones, the coin flip games, right? And if you want to switch the optimism of what we're hearing to the more cynical or the more grounded take, I think the good news is what essentially USC is doing over the course of this spring, bit by bit, is removing the excuses. It's USC that's telling us this roster is better than any roster we've had. This coaching is better than what we've had. The facilities are in a place that they've never been before. The recruiting's they're telling us, all the things that were the excuses before are being removed by USC. So it's reasonable for us to sit there and say, well, this is playoff or bust. This isn't you're all out of excuses at this stage. And I also think, and if you listen to Lincoln Riley, there was a slight reference to it today, but again, he drew a distinction as well. These first 4 years, once it became obvious that things weren't going to work out, like the start of every year one, if you remember, when there was a Pac-12 media day, if you can remember back then, right? And we talked to him for the very first time up on the stage, and someone asked him, can this team win a national championship? And Lincoln Riley said, well, I'm not going to take anything off the table. Well, that team wasn't a national championship team, and not even close. But every year, we kind of got sold, right? But every year, when it went south, Lincoln Riley would talk about the climb. And we're just part of this. We're on this journey, and we're just not there yet. He said when that bowl game ended in December, the window was open for championships. So if you want to be in the positive spin mode, we've seen a lot of talent out there on the field. We've seen good coaching, good instruction. The things that we've seen are reasons to believe that they could be in the playoff. If you want to be negative Nancy and state of Missouri, show me, right? You want to be like that, then what you can feel comfortable is in the fact that USC, by its own words, is out of excuses, and no one is denying the level they have to reach.
Yeah.
No one's going to say, if they don't make the playoff team, we're not going to try to sell it. USC's not going to try to sell that it was a success. No one's going to try to convince you otherwise if they don't reach the thing that they got to reach.
One of the more recent comments is about, it's like, shush, please beat Oregon. I don't know if you see that one, India. That's a big one. And it's funny, so the recent recruiting success that USC's had against Oregon. We talked about this on the Tunnel Vision show Sunday night a little bit. Drew Fielder, the offensive lineman from one of the top tackles from Servite, was a commit to Oregon, switches to USC. There's been some good troll jobs from USC, social media people spray painting the green cardinal and all that stuff. And then, Oregon fans coming back and, hey, Oregon's been beating USC for the last 5 years or whatever. And, which is legit. And then USC comes back with they never won a championship. There's all this back and forth stuff. But before USC was getting, Oregon was eating USC's lunch on the recruiting trail and also beating them on the field. So now you at least are taking back on the recruiting trail and recruiting at the level that you should be. And Riley even talked about that a little bit today in the media scrum afterwards. But you're not going to win every battle, but they weren't winning any of them, and now they're actively going in and beating Oregon head to head, using the advantages that being in Southern California has and all that. So there's that. But I think the next step is definitely getting a win. And those three teams. There's three teams in the top five. I think beating Oregon would be the most significant. You can only pick one. I think you want to beat Oregon. A win on any of them would be great. Beating Ohio State, that's absolute juggernaut. They're just a killing machine. Oregon, obviously, the way they've got things rolling, just on the West Coast, the Pac-12 ties and everything, I think it would make the most sense to beat them. But even beating a defending national champion Indiana And if they're not having if they're having a down year and they go like 8-4 or something, that win doesn't feel as good. But all of those would be important. But I think the most important one to the in the chat, their point, beating Oregon, I think would feel the best for USC fans and probably do the most as far as for recruiting. They're already recruiting well against Oregon, but you kind of need that win. You get that other extra notch on your belt. I think Oregon's going to break through and win a national championship eventually. So you're going to lose that ability to talk trash that they 0 championships and stuff. We'll see. Maybe not, but there's potential. But I think you got to start being. You can go head to head well on the recruiting trail, but you also start beating them on the field too.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before. If you look at the USC schedule, certainly no game is going to feel as good to win as the Oregon game.
Yeah.
I think we can just from a purely emotional standpoint, before you get into the tactics of it or the implications or the what it means of all of it. And I think there's no doubt about it. That rivalry has become personal on a two-way level. It isn't one of those rivalries where the one team hates the other, but the other doesn't really care. No, that's not what's going on. And I think you do have to get it done on the field. I think that's the game that would mean the most. But you got to also, again, context is everything. That's the earliest of those games, right? And so winning it would be fantastic. And it would be great for the recruiting and all that, the implications, and the ability to just, first of all, it's just you got to start punching the bully in the face.
Yes.
Yes. In the long history of college football, there is no comparison between USC and Oregon. No one's pretending that that's the case. Not even Oregon's pretending that's the case. But in the last decade of college football, when the game has changed, when the rules have changed, the conditions under which it's changed, it's Oregon and it's not really that close.
No.
Right? And so you just got to stand up and punch the guy in the face. You can't just keep taking it on the field because otherwise
noogies like crazy.
Yeah, noogies is like the least of your concerns, right? But back to the schedule, don't forget. Check me if I'm wrong on this, but so they're playing Oregon, right? Big emotional early game in the Coliseum. Let's say they win it. Well, next week Washington is sliding right in a perfect situation to catch you.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't get caught like that.
So look. If they come up short against Oregon, rattle off 9 straight wins, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? If they beat Oregon and we're throwing parades and Washington shows up 7 days later, right, and does a number on them and sets you back, that Oregon win isn't going to feel that great anymore.
No.
Right? So it's all in the context. But again, no matter how you want to slice up the pie, it's a pass-fail exam. That's the beauty of the situation.
Yeah.
Right? It's you are either in that playoff or you're not. And if you're not, there will be some changes. You don't get to punt on the 2026 season.
Yeah.
We're all out of that.
Trojan Fight says, I think more fans want to see them beat Oregon than anyone else on the schedule. And I think that's
100%
I think that's
true.
very, very fair. And but it's a pretty the bottom of the schedule I don't think is that great, but there's some, going to Wisconsin, going to Penn State, those games are you just have to win. And I think even looking back at this year that you were, there's the Oregon game, what are you going to do with that? Notre Dame, they're going to be good. Illinois was on the road, and those are the teams you lost to. But there was questionable games the rest of the way too, at Nebraska, playing Iowa. To be able to get wins against some of the schedule that USC had last year, those were sort of maybe coin flippy, or you weren't really sure. They just couldn't break through and knock off any of the top teams that were on the schedule. Now the top teams this year on the schedule are significantly harder than the top teams they had last year. And the coin flipping games, we'll see. We're not sure what's, Wisconsin, they could be in fire Luke Fickell mode by the time they play. Penn State, obviously, whole new regime, but we've seen things happen around. Jed Fish has things going in the right direction at Washington. I don't think both USC and Washington could feel good about their season if you lose to the other one, because they're both trying to make this, ascend, and maybe USC is a little bit ahead of them, but you can't let Washington get one over on you, in the Coliseum. So yeah, teams like that. I mean, obviously UCLA's got a weird stuff going on, but I would, the top of the schedule is very, very tough. So it's being disciplined enough to beat all those teams that you should, and then get one of those top three, flip one of those to, you're probably not going to be a favorite in any of them unless you go out and beat Oregon to start or whatever. But that, and get, flip one of those and you'll be in a good spot. But there's a lot to do. You can't beat Oregon and lose to Washington. There's stuff like that that's going to, you can, it could happen, but that would be a disaster.
That's the one beauty of the new format, right? Is it's going to be the body of work. So it's going to feel bad for a week if and when they lose, but it's not like it was in the old days where it was like, you've lost week 5 and you are no longer a factor.
Yeah.
Right? That's over with. So it's going to be the body of work and the consistency. And look, that's part of what USC is trying to accomplish this spring, is this idea that it's a group of players and a group of coaches and a group of support staff that understands that every snap, every hour, every meeting counts. And it will show on the field, right? Like if this is all just a show and it's just all been just an act and they're not the team that we think that they can be, it's not going to take long to figure it out. It won't. Even against the lower teams, the Cupcakes or whoever, it'll look a certain way.
I think you get to.
There have been games in the last 3 years where people were like, "Oh my God, they look so good," but there's also been, remember that San Jose State game?
Yeah.
2 years ago, right?
Was it Nick?
They were up big.
What was his name?
Castellon? No.
No.
I'm not getting that
the
wrong.
receiver that Nick Marsh or not? No, that's Nick Marsh, not him. But the guy, he caught like 3 touchdowns against USC.
Well, you remember there was 2 big things, right? USC gave up a first down on a 3rd and 21 on a quarterback run.
Nick Nash.
Yeah.
There you go. And then you remember they were cruising, and then San Jose State throws in this ridiculous touchdown pass at the end of the half. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it was to Nash.
To Nash, but should never have happened.
No.
And Alex Grinch even was like, "What are you running there? You ran something that they weren't comfortable. Clearly, they didn't know what they were doing. There was a miscommunication, a huge bust, right?" So there's signs even against the other teams, right, that this is And look, they struggled last year with Purdue more than they should have struggled with Purdue.
Yes.
Let's just be honest, right? But they did win some of those games that were losses the year before. That Iowa game was a loss the year before.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I think at Nebraska probably would have been too.
I think at Nebraska it would have been as well. That was a game that was...
The quarterback got hurt. I know
down.
someone in the chat pointed out the quarterback ended up getting hurt that game, but yeah.
He did, but I honestly, USC's defense won that game.
Yeah. They put Raiola in a bunch of bad spots.
And I obviously never ever rooting for people to get hurt, but USC knocked him out of the game.
Yeah.
Which is not something you hear enough.
Yeah.
Well, not out of the game, but you know what I'm saying, pass rush and all that.
Yeah.
So that, yes, Dylan Raiola of course makes a difference, but that was a legit win. There didn't need to be a huge asterisk next to that.
All right. Well, I already gone like an hour. I guess we could take a break. India, is that cool?
Of course.
And we'll come back. We'll do some questions. If you're in the chat on Facebook or YouTube, put a question in there, and India will pull it up on the screen. But back in a minute, everybody. Alrighty, we're back here on the Peristyle Podcast. I don't know how much we were going to talk about. We went a whole hour just talking about SP Plus and what's going on at spring football and everything. 2 practices left. That's it. We'll get to watch parts of one of them on Friday, and then poof, gone. They did their big scrimmagey stuff on Saturday, so I don't think this Saturday is going to be a lot of that for what. It doesn't sound like it, but
I don't know. They're going to have some scrimmage portion on Saturday.
I would think.
I think Lincoln Riley said today it's something.
Yeah,
it's
I think their
some
big
substance.
one was
Right.
Saturday or something. Yeah.
Doesn't mean we still wouldn't love and invite
Right.
USC football.
I
If you're
put it out
listening-
there.
If you're listening Saturday, whatever time, 6 a.m., whatever, like,
Let us know.
We'll be there.
if there's a chance for us to see somebody hit somebody,
We'll be there.
We'll go. Yeah, I asked, just to see.
Work your
There
magic.
was told. No, I didn't push anything. I just asked, and they were like, they're not anticipating any extra viewing periods on the way out. I've contemplated trying to work some magic, but I think I'll save the magic. I don't think it's like worth. We'll see. It'd be nice to see it, but
I'd rather.
I want to see if I can pull a few strings and be like, you know what, I'm going to make that happen, and maybe I can't, but who knows? We'll see.
Well, no one's gonna question the dean of USC media. We're still working. We gave up on the practice field naming, but we're still working on a plaque or some building or something. But I will say, I'd rather have access to a fall camp practice
Yeah.
than the final
I
practice.
figured maybe
spring.
save it for that.
So, if it is a pick your battle scenario, it would be nice just because you're telling us, you're showing us this and this and this, but like literally we have not seen a tackle football team play tackle football.
Yeah. We got to
So,
see. No tackling.
Should we get to our voicemail?
Yeah, let's do the voicemail first.
Let's do it.
What is up, boss man? What is up? Automatic and Cilantro Ranch. Doing a great job, man.
This our guy.
Love it. Love what you're doing so far. Your analysis is spot on. Love it. This question is for, Cilantro Ranch for boss man. This is Eddie from Orange. Asking you here, what do you think Wafel and Bone are going to do this year at like tight end and defensive end? Buzzes, both of them are killing it. Do you think they both end up starting by the Oregon game? Now, I'm not saying they start against San Jose State, but do both of them end up being legitimate starters by Oregon? Are we looking at Luke Wafel or Bowman just blowing up stuff, going crazy and making an impact that early season? All right, Dave from Orange.
Thanks, Eddie. India talked about not really talking on the phone that much. If you're going to, usually you go to a place that's like, quiet or something. And
Not driving.
yeah, like Eddie's like, sounds like he's sitting at a bus stop. Sometimes he's like, I'm not saying he takes the bus. Maybe he does. I'm not sure. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes he's running. He's never like, even at, like, this is for a voicemail for a show. Like he calls, he leaves a voicemail for a show when I wouldn't call like my mom. I wouldn't call my mom on this bus stop wherever Eddie is, somewhere in Orange. So.
Okay, I'll just say, first of all, if it's our one voicemail, we need to be happy with whatever. But Eddie doesn't know when inspiration's going to strike.
That's true.
Right.
He probably didn't plan on being in that street mob.
It was
or whatever
spontaneous.
Fight was
It's
going on
every
or
week.
whatever he was doing. Like
He literally
but,
calls from jogs. Like he's on his headphones. It's Eddie from Orange. He's like running somewhere. Like,
Look, inspiration
That's
is
his thing.
inspiration. We'll take it, Eddie.
what was this question?
To the
again?
question, Wafel and
yes.
Bowman.
Yeah, no, I mean, the reviews have been glowing. I mean, just to hear, this morning talking about Wafel's thinks he has 6% body fat and what he eats for breakfast and all this is like a freshman sort of inspiring a veteran defensive lineman of how he's conducting himself and everything. And you look at the dude and I mean, it's kind of crazy. And then with Mark Bowman as well, he was getting some extra reps after practice on the jugs machine and just looks the part. Just everything you hear about him is okay, he's going to be a contributor. And I think both of those, I don't know about if they'll both be starting by the time the Oregon game, but I think those are two of the players that are definitely going to be in the rotation. And we'll see, the way you used the tight ends last year, they got a bunch of different guys reps, and sometimes you'd see 12 personnel, you'd see two tight ends on the field, and I think he could be involved in that. And if you're a twitchy, tall, strong, athletic dude that can get after the quarterback, it's hard to not have that guy on the field. And it's not like USC's had like crazy production from that position too. So it doesn't even matter if there's veterans in front of you. If he can do it, he's going to get out there and they're going to give him chances. But I think both guys will be in the rotation. I don't know even how important it is to say he's going to be the starter or whatever, but I think you're going to see doses of both of those guys from early on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it a step further with Bowman. He's going to be, if they had a game Saturday, he'd be starting.
I like it. Yeah.
He is the best. He is the best tight end on the roster right now. It's not really much of a discussion, to be honest with you. And I'll be happy to take the receipts if he's not starting against San Jose State and he rides the pine for 6 weeks. But I just don't see it.
Clip that.
We talked about it on Instant. I don't think I've seen him drop a ball in spring. I don't think I've seen him miss a pass. He's too good not to start. The thing with Wafel is that it doesn't matter if he starts. What matters is if he cracks the top three, which he is 100% going to crack the top three.
Yeah.
Right? Last year's, the three top snap getters on the edge position was Cam Crawford, who's back, Anthony Lucas, who is not, and Braylon Shelby, who is, right? So you've got one of the top three. You assume they're going to roll with at least three guys that they trust to get those bulk. The next guy, the fourth guy, was 28 snaps. The third guy was 444.
Yeah.
So Luke Wafel doesn't have to win.
Yeah.
He just has to be in the top three. He is absolutely going to be among their top three.
And it might be 4. It might be more than that. They might not have that huge drop off from 3 to 4, but it depends on. But they need production out of that. Like there was a lot of snaps, but there wasn't a lot of sacks, and that's what you want.
Yeah, I just think that he's in a different situation than Bowman relative to the room. When you've got 2 of your 3 top returning guys, it's tough to come over the top maybe by week 1, but it's football. He doesn't have to start.
Yeah.
He can still play 30 snaps.
It's not the quarterback spot. Yeah.
And if he makes an impact, then he's going to keep playing. I think
but those top guys in Bowman's position are gone.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
There's nobody in that room who can say that. I mean, if you look at just the pure snaps, Nella Tupou is the snap leader at 70 snaps. And he went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He went 8 games without playing at all.
Yeah.
That's your most experienced returner in the tight end room. So that's different than what you're dealing with in a defensive
And they like
end.
him, and he looked good, and he got to play.
I like him. I think they're good. Well, first of all, they're going to use multiple tight ends. That was a big step forward from last year. I don't see any reason that that's going to change. They're going to use multiple tight ends plenty of times. They're going to throw the ball to Mark Bowman, and Luke Wafel will crack that top 3.
Yeah.
I'm confident.
And I think it is more of a business now than it ever was before. I think 10 years ago, if you had a 5-star freshman, maybe you want them to play because it shows that, we're going to play these young guys and try to attract other young guys and things. But now it's also about it's just like in the NFL. Like if you spend a lot of money on a second round pick and your undrafted free agent looks pretty good, but they're close, it's like you're going to play the second round pick that you spent a lot of money on. Now, if the undrafted free agent's better, they're going to, he'll probably play, but there's a
investment.
The scale there. Yeah, there's an investment that's been made. And so if Bowman's the best player and they've made the biggest investment in him, it's like no brainer. We got to play him. You got to start him. So I think there's a lot of that too, that the investment you want to be able to nourish and be able to, show, hey, this was a big deal. But if a guy's a bust, you spend a lot of money on a guy and it's dead money, you can't play him just because you spent money on him. And I'm sure that happens some places too, where you're just trying to make it work. But I think those guys are legit players. They've invested heavily to get them. So you're going to see them on the field, Eddie.
Yeah, and just one last quick thing. The other way to look at it is the only year of Luke Wafel you're guaranteed is this year.
Oh, for anybody, right?
Right.
Yeah,
so to sit there because there was a lot in the old times. There was a lot of he may actually be the best guy, but he's sitting for 2 games because he's got to be humbled. He's got to earn. Yeah. He's got to
Screw that.
That's done. That ain't happening. There's none of that that's going on. These other considerations are the considerations, and in this case, I'm pretty sure the merit's going to match up with it as well as all the things.
It's
that you
not just
about.
Because they invest.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Should we get to the email question?
Sure.
And then we got some questions in the chat.
Okay.
Nice.
Our email. Hey guys, with the pending completion of the new football center, what will Heritage Hall be used for? Will the Heismans be moved, Ralph?
I put some new photos of the building, of the Bloom Center in there, India, if you want to do that. I did add those. I think I took those yesterday or something. But yeah, it's coming along. It's looking pretty good there. We haven't got word of what, how things are going to change. Right now in Heritage Hall, you do have the sports information people, also like Jen Cohen's office, like the athletic department, they're in there. It is more of a public building that you can use. And, my guess is they're going to keep that the same, where you could still go in there and look at trophies and look at the Heismans and all that, because the McKay Center is not for the public. I believe the Bloom Center will have like a public space to it. I thought that's what, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I don't know if you guys have heard something differently, but, or maybe they're turning the McKay Center. I think they're going to add some extra public stuff for that. We'll try to find out kind of what that is, but my guess is Heritage Hall will stay similar. And I don't know if they'll end up moving like the athletic department into like maybe where football was, because they have a football only building now, and then they could have more space in Heritage Hall. We used to have a media room in Heritage Hall, and they've got rid of that. So now there should be some more space. Maybe they can bring something like that back again. But my guess is you're still going to have the sort of display stuff of Heritage Hall would still do that, and then they could utilize the space for, maybe the athletic department will move in there into the McKay Center to, whatever the football people were using. But football have their own thing now, and then it'll just open up a lot more space for some of the other stuff. I'm sure there's other sports that are crammed in. Basketball gets to be on its own over at the Galen Center, so but all these other sports that are there, once football got bigger, they get shoehorned sideways. So I think everyone will sort of, put their chest out, wave their elbows around a little bit, and get some more room. And maybe we see the athletics like Jen Cohen in that office. Maybe they move over. I don't know. I'll have to ask them and see. I don't know if you guys heard about anything or anything.
Well, you're always going to be the one who speaks on these sorts of things, but I would just say Heritage Hall is a little too iconic. I can't imagine the public part of that gets altered significantly.
Yeah, I would think
I think there's no way they're going to change that. I think the bigger thing is the McKay Center. There's no huge attachment to that. It's a huge functional advantage for the department to inherit that space.
Yeah.
There's a full giant weight facility down there at a minimum, right? So now suddenly the football team's no longer using that.
Yeah.
So all the other teams now have access to a football-sized weight room, and they have the time that football's not taking using that stuff. So I think that just the size of the McKay Center, it's going to help everything with all the other teams. My guess would be they can do like a rotating thing, like maybe it's a salute to the 2000s or the 90s in the Bloom Center, and maybe have a couple Heisman. You can do a little rotating work, but I just think Heritage Hall is part of the brand. It's what you're selling. I can't imagine they would alter that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that they were just going to utilize it to expand like the Olympic sports particularly, and as you said, get more space, and there's a little field down there, and there's a big weight room, and you've got the time that football takes, you can move things up, you can move things around, but it's going to give like track and all the Olympic sports, lacrosse, soccer, all those things like that more space, because obviously the volleyball teams and basketball teams have their own space in Galen, so we don't really utilize the McKay Center that much, except sometimes in the summer we'll go over there. But again, that'll allow for more time. Sometimes if basketball wants to go over there and utilize it for the summer, things like that. We had something called Filthy Fridays. So sometimes we went over to McKay Center to utilize a bigger space in the weight room and the small field. So they'll have more available times to probably do that, which will be fun. But I was hearing that it was just going to, expand and be easier for like the Olympic sports and the teams that are kind of already over there.
Yeah, it gives them a nice opportunity and, massive weight, capabilities that a football team would need. And I think the football team would have like, if you're the lacrosse team and you're like, we want to lift at 6. Well, no, the football team's lifting at 6. Like
and
now
you
can
have to
lift at 6.
change your practice schedule
Yeah,
around.
now you can do what you want. And like you mentioned the field, like I didn't see there was a whole lot of use for like the low ceiling field down there that you would use for football. Like you could
Right.
do some
But
formations and
soccer
stuff,
and
but
all that kind of
you could do
stuff.
all kinds of lacrosse things in there and
Yeah.
everything. You could have fun. I don't think the golf team could really chip in there because it's a low ceiling, but you could hit like stingers.
Well, you get one of those projectors. The video.
yeah,
They
you
have
could-
those in there, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
do.
have like bays like for
But you
the,
could put one in the big field, like in there. Who knows?
yeah.
Definitely more room to do things if you're Olympic sports. I'd be excited.
Yeah, but I'll check with them and see. I haven't really asked Ralph. So thank you for the question, but I'll try to ask and see what. Yeah, because the offices over there at Heritage are kind of old. So like if you go into like Jen Cohen's office and stuff, yeah, I mean those things have been there a long time. So she's actually where like Pete Carroll was back in the day. Like that's where they had. I think that's where they kind of moved into, but yeah, she has it nice in there. Like I go in there, there's like a conference room they use and everything. But I'm curious if I'll ask them see if they're going to move over or not.
Well, one thing we know for sure is that Jen Cohen's key card will work at the Bloom Center.
Oh, she can go wherever she wants.
No one's gonna stop her whether she's got a permanent space in there or not.
She can move wherever she wants.
Yeah, she can go wherever.
I wouldn't
she
even
feels
think
like.
about the Bloom Center. I was thinking about maybe she would go to the McKay, like her office. But maybe they would. Maybe there is space for like. Would you want athletics with football, or is it just football? Football.
I think the Bloom Center is meant to be football.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
kind of just being cheeky about the fact
Oh
that
yeah. She can go wherever
she
she
goes
wants.
wherever she wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one says no to her. Like, but yeah, I think in it, and I think it's good for football to have that space and to occupy that space, not just for the logistical help impact on the other teams, but just kind of like a respect thing that there's like a facility now for all the other teams to kind of have, and there's not this shadow
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
football over it. Football's got its own place. It doesn't need anything else. It's not any kind of a drain on any kind of a shared anything. Because let's be honest, like shared is not shared.
No.
Like it's
No,
what
there's-
football wants, and then there is what's left.
And you have like leftovers. And if
Yeah.
you're mad that like I can't believe football gets this building, but it's at least like, well, they kind of built this other building for football before, and now we get it, and it's
Well,
like way
football
better.
paid for the building.
Yeah.
So like,
I know,
you know,
but still, it's
it's-
not. But I think it's
a
a win.
good thing.
It's a win
Yeah,
for everybody.
it
I
is a
think.
win for
I think
everybody.
that that's what's good.
Should we get into some questions?
Yeah, we're going way too long. Sorry.
Okay, we can rapid fire this a little bit, I guess.
this will be rapid. I could.
Well, some of this we've already kind of talked about a little bit, but question: is Oregon a must-win, similar to how the Michigan game felt last year?
I felt that Michigan was a must-win, and I guess there's some similarities because you were on the road at Michigan the year before, and I didn't even mention that earlier. The Michigan one's a big one, and you should have won the game and didn't, blew it, and I felt like you had to get them when they were at home, especially they weren't going to be as good with Jerome Moore and all that kind of stuff, and obviously that ends up being there was a lot of disaster stuff going on behind the scenes. I think Oregon's a much coming in the Coliseum is going to be a much better team than Michigan was coming in. Though Michigan was good. Did they win 9 games or something? I think were they 9
Yeah,
or 4?
they
I think
didn't
were-
fall apart. It's not
Yeah.
like they just fall apart.
Yeah,
fell
like they
apart.
were. It was a
Like,
good team, but I don't think they were like an elite team like Oregon. So I think it's really hard for me to say it's a must win. But it's like, like RJ said, like you could lose the Oregon game and still have go to the playoffs. So I don't think it's one of those things. Michigan was like it wasn't considered one of those top teams. But you had to get the win because like they weren't going to be quite as good. You get them at home. You had them on the ropes the year before. So I wouldn't. There's some parallels there, but I wouldn't say the same thing because Oregon's coming in elite. So I wouldn't say it's a must win.
Oregon is a must play well game.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're going rapid. That's it.
There you go. We've got another question. Is Jahid Abasiri an end now? Defensive end.
Janae's playing both, right? Like I think he's doing. People have asked that a
Yeah.
lot. Like if I would take pictures, and even when I would list them as a photo, I'd put like defensive lineman, and they would be like, "Wait, is he?" And I forget what they put him on the roster, but I think he's played a little. I think he can see a little. Both.
So he was a defensive lineman for 432 snaps last year. So that was his primary. If you look, we'll just go right to it. Like I think he's on defensive tackles. I'd be really surprised if he spends a lot of time on the end.
Okay.
Maybe some of your weird, like some of your goal line stuff. But they need him inside.
Okay.
And the good news is, I think it was it Hayden Treater or Hayden Treater might have said Jade was the most impressive defensive line,
I think it was
his toughest block assignment this spring. So I think he's taken a step up in that category. I mean, again, like you said, just because you were the snap leader last year doesn't mean you were an amazing player, right? But I think the fact that, number one, they brought him back, they clearly wanted him back, and he's a talented guy, and he's an upperclassman finally, So I think he stays inside. I think it would be a unique situation that brought him outside.
Cool. We've got a couple more. Who have been the most impressive players on offense and defense this spring?
Well, like RJ said, we cover a sport that's tackle football, and we haven't seen tackle football be played. So that's really hard to but from what,
Give your top three.
No, but even comparing,
it's kind of hard.
It's hard to compare. But people that have stood out, who would you say?
Let's do this. Let's call it best bets.
Okay, yeah,
Let's do
that.
best
I like
bets,
that.
and you can either do offense or defense, and I'll do the other. So whatever you want to do, however you want to.
Let's go. I guess I'll do. I don't know. What do you care?
I don't care. I'll do either way. Hit me. What do you want to know?
Here, you do offense.
Okay, so best bets.
Yeah.
Obviously, not counting Mayava, the returning quarterback.
Yeah.
It's kind of just kind of a ridiculous bet, especially in a Lincoln Riley offense. I'm going to say Riley Wormley will have a role in the passing game. I'll say Tron Baker, Mark Bowman.
I like that.
There's three guys for you. I don't think, Riley Wormley's not going to take over for the starters, but to have a role, I think he's going to have a role. And then the other two guys, pretty confident. And then the last guy, India's buddy, Trent Mosley.
I like Trent there too. Yeah, and then I think on the defensive side, if you're looking at the secondary, a bunch of dudes are banged up, but I've liked what I've seen from Alex Graham, and I think he's got a real chance. And the way that Gary Patterson plays, safeties are a bigger deal. It's the nickel guy is going to be more of a safety kind of thing. I think there's some opportunities for Alex Graham to kind of come in there and do some things. He's wearing number 7 now. We mentioned Luke Wafel, and it's just the way other guys are talking about him, it's not just 5-star hype. It's now oh, look, just the way that he was talking about today, the way he eats and stuff. I'm getting these Porter Gustin feels from back in the day. The way he was sort of coming into the weight room. And now that was because I think USC's weight room was sort of dysfunctional. They were following him, which that was probably not a good sign when there was 20 guys that are yeah, Porter Gustin's showing us what to do. I'm okay, you want one of the players to be running the weight room? That's not a good thing. But I sort of like what he's doing there. And then I'm not I think there's a lot of other people that cover this team that are big on Desmond Stevens, and he looks the part. I'm going to go with him as a best bet, but I wouldn't say I'm sold yet, but everything points to, man, there should be a big step forward, and it might have a lot to do with Mike Eckler coming in and having an impact there. But they put a lot of eggs in that basket last year, and it just didn't work. It didn't bear fruit. Those are bad mixing of metaphors or whatever. But I would say I would pick with him, but there's a little bit of reluctance there. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think Shotgun's big on a lot of Chris. I think a lot of people are big on him. I think they're going to need him to have a big role, but I'm not sure yet.
I think it's important to remember he was an underclassman. He was not by any means a star player last year. Not even close. That's just not debatable. But he is an upperclassman this year. He's getting coached by Mike Eckler. There's more talent around him, and there's competition. He's not going to get 500 snaps just for being a mid guy out there. If he plays at the level he played last year,
if he's mid, he's not going to play.
He might get replaced. So I think that's a good bet. Last name I would toss on defense is Rock Hill.
Oh yeah,
that's what I was going to say.
Oh, nice. Okay. He's probably going to have a special teams role. He's probably going to be in that rotation somewhere.
It's going to be tough to keep him off the 2 deep. defensively. I'm not going to go so far yet as to be starter because there are guys coming back that I think are going to be good, and they're veteran guys as well. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough to keep him out of the mix.
Yeah, like not having a Christian Pierce out there right now. And
Jason Johnson.
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys in the secondary that aren't playing, but you get to see some of these other guys. And but I think with Alex Graham, he got banged up so much last year. I think he can have a big role. But that's a great question. Thank you.
Got a couple more. This next one from Facebook. Thank you to our Facebook viewers. Are the veteran players looking larger and appearing stronger than the previous spring camps?
Well, we just talked about Jade, who the players are saying is a bigger, better version of himself. I think the one name that I go to, and we're doing rapid, so that's going to be one name, is Elijah Vicona.
Yeah.
He didn't need to get bigger, but he needed to get stronger, better body composition, right? The good weight that we're always talking about. And it sounds like he did that by his own self-report, by what all the other players are saying, and by what we've seen. I think he's taken a significant leap both physically and mentally as a player this year.
I think like after spring last year is when they brought in Tremaine Carroll and sort of changed things up a little bit. But we've definitely heard on both lines that people that went last year and went this year, they're like, oh, these guys are bigger. I don't know if it's necessarily like body by body from last year to this year, but I think just the way the guys they brought in, there's a lot of dudes that looked the part. But I think having a full year after spring, it'll be like a full year of Tremaine Carroll. I think it's made a difference for sure. But you remember, he didn't come in until after spring last year. So when spring camp concludes, it'll be like his first like full year on the job.
Cool. 2 more questions. Question: at what point is the Big Ten not doing any favors with advantage scheduling? Through 2 seasons, no ranked team in the top 10 has had to play a night game in the Coliseum. I have my doubts.
Okay, I think so. He's talking about kick times.
Yes.
There was a lot of kick times talk in the. That's all TV, man. That's not like.
And to be honest with you, like the ranked teams, the good teams are coming in and they're kicking off at 12:30 or they're kicking off at 5. It's not. The conference doesn't get to like finagle that. That's the TV partners. The other thing is that I felt like anecdotally, there have been just as many East Coast teams that have had to come in and play an 8 p.m. Pacific
like
game.
Like Rutgers or whatever.
as USC has had to play a 9 a.m.er.
Yeah.
I think they've balanced that. So if it's the kick time thing, it's fairly balanced. The premier teams, I mean, we can tell you right now, the Oregon game will be a 12:30, 4:30, or 5 o'clock kick.
Yeah.
Unless like complete disaster strikes.
If it's not,
both of them are If there's not, you don't want to even know the kick time because you're probably not going to want to be watching it. But like Oregon, Ohio State, those are going to be those kick times. I might raise my eyebrow if USC's got a really good record and they get sent to play Indiana at say 9 a.m. Then I might be okay. That's a little, but we haven't got there yet. So let's just see.
Yeah.
Last question. This is kind of a 2-parter, but I only put the real question up. Have we ever seen a starting QB under Lincoln Riley who had 3 years with him? And then the second part from Jeff was thinking about it. I guess Caleb was with Riley for 3 years, ... Would we say he progressed or regressed?
Oof. So I think this is trying to take a shot at Riley. I mean, Caleb did win the Heisman and then, didn't afterwards. It's hard for me to say he regressed.
Yeah.
I think Jade Mayava has progressed for what we saw. It was a weird situation with the whole Miller Moss thing when it started, and then, the turnovers and everything, and then he took some strides forward last year, and then they went from like a meh offense to an elite offense again. I think just staying as an elite offense will be good for Mayava. The offensive line should be good. They all come back. He's got to find guys that aren't Jacoby Lane and aren't Lake McCree and Mekhi Lemon, and all, so there's his top pass catchers aren't there, so he's gonna have to show that he can throw to other dudes. But yeah, I wouldn't say there was regression there, but I think and I don't know if he really had 3-year guys at Oklahoma because he had a couple transfers.
Jeff clarified too before you mention your point, RJ. No shot. I was just wondering if Mayava is going to be even better. Thoughts on that?
So it's weird because we were kind of talking about this before the show, right? Like with quarterbacks, the job is different for Mayava this year. So last year the job was make it work with these talented players, given that the offensive line stabilizes and gives you people to block. Like that was the big issue with the year before. If you look at like the Elijah Page that Miller Moss played with for 9 games and the Elijah Page that Mayava played with in the final 3 games because he got hurt, those are 2 different dudes, right? But last year was Mayava surrounded by really talented dudes. This year, he's got talented but inexperienced dudes, and the expectation is that his experience bridges that gap. So it's a different task. So the numbers could look the same, but he might make a substantial leap forward in terms of his maturity, his leadership. If you want to just watch, there's 2 things to watch for with Mayava and with USC next year. When USC's offense got in trouble last year, they went to one default setting, which is chuck the ball up. Just throw it deep outside the numbers, and there was enough talent out there that was a pretty good solution to most problems, right? Let's see this year if they run into adversity, how they handle that. If it's just that, then you can make your own decisions about growth. The other place is that we talked about that USC worked on today with their quarterbacks, the red zone. How often does USC trust him to make throw decisions in the red zone? How often does he make the right throw decisions in the red zone, the right run decisions? Watch those things. If those things uptick, then he's improved, he's developed, he's taken another step.
Awesome. That's all the questions.
All righty. Nice. Well, we went like 90 minutes. Pretty good. Yeah, one more practice Friday, so check out the site. We'll have a bunch more content going up there. Content will be going up throughout the week. I'm sorry.
I got to clean up, before we go, I got to clean up 2 things.
Oh, yeah,
2
go ahead.
fumbles by me. Number 1, from Instant, Will Weisberg, the other guy getting kickoff opportunities. All I got was Will in Instant Analysis. I fumbled that badly. And then Madden Reardon, Sierra Canyon, Chatsworth Sierra Canyon product. I think I said St. John Bosco in Instant or here or both. So just so you guys know,
you mentioned
all the people out there.
You mentioned Sierra Canyon here, but I think on Instant you said
I might have
Bosco.
said Bosco. So
one of those powers.
We went 22 minutes on Instant too. Today we've
nice.
been ground and pound today. We're giving you guys the content that you need to get through these spring days.
And we'll be back Sunday night, 6 p.m. Tunnel Vision. We'll take live calls if you want to call in for that. So
I've never had live calls. Please call.
Yeah.
Everybody call so
sad was
RJ can
that?
experience it.
No one ever called me. I've never even used my phone before. So please.
Yeah. Call in. Use the phone thing that India doesn't like to use, and we'll do it. Cool. But appreciate it. Appreciate Automatic and whatever we're going to call RJ.
The cilantro is definitely going to be part of it. It's just the other half.
The ranch cilantro.
Okay, so for the
cilantro
viewers,
ranch.
maybe we want to go oregano. So the other half is Sicilian and French Canadian.
So you could like oregano cilantro.
So
but
I'm throwing that out there.
Okay.
Workshop it, people.
Yeah.
Workshop it.
Poutine cilantro. I don't know.
Yeah, you could do something like that. Sure. Something.
Poutine cilantro. Maybe poutine cilantro is the way
It's
to
an
go.
upgrade from Who Knows.
Yeah, right.
Which is what we started with.
Right.
It was the launch point for me.
Yes.
We'll think on it.
Yes, but we will. All right. Well, that's gonna hope we got through an April Fool's Day show without anything too silly happening. But for India Otto, RJ Abeytia, I am Ryan Abraham. Hope you all enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next.